Hi guys, this is Mallikarjun here. Uh, Today I am here with one exciting live demo of Oracle RAC installation, which includes installation of grid infrastructure and installation of Oracle RAC Database Home and creation of Oracle RAC Database on top of that. So here my setup is I'm using VMware Workstation 15 and I have installed two Linux server VL 6.5 and I have already completed my pre-installation task for this rack or grid infrastructure installation. So I'm going ahead with a live demo of installation from the grid infrastructure, Oracle Home, and then the rack database creation. So this is, if you can see my screen, this is what my setup look like. The Oracle grid infrastructure version is 12.2.01 and Oracle database home is 12.2.01. It is of two node rack, two node grid infrastructure rack, and two node database installation. So my grid home is going to be U01 app 12.2.01 grid, and Oracle home is going to be U01 app Oracle product 12.2.01 DB home 1. And my rack nodes are, node 1 is going to be rack3 localdomain.com and node 2 is rack4 localdomain.com. Both are UL5, and the the network configuration is going to be public IPs are 192.168.8.128 and 129. These two rack 3 and rack 4 are going to be my public IPs, and my private IPs are going to be 192.168.79.128 and 129. There's a small typo here. Here you go, guys. There was some typo. I just modified that. Okay. Public IPs are 128, 129, and private IPs are same 128, 129, but subnet is 79 here. So these are going to be rack pre 3 and rack pre private 4, and virtual IPs are going to be 190, 192.168.8.130 and 131, and host name is going to be rack VIP, rack VIP 3 and 4. So scan IPs are going to be same 192.168.8.140, 150 and 160, and the name is going to be racscan. So this is what all setup I already configured. I'll just quickly show, and this is Oracle documentation where I'm going to refer for installation. So I already connected my both the servers. What I will do, I'll just check a host name of this. You can see rack 3, and similarly this is the rack 4, and then I can show you my host file, same whatever I showed you here in the notepad. Public IPs, private IPs, virtual IPs, and scan IPs. Right, similarly public IPs, private IPs, virtual IPs, and scan IPs. Okay, so now I'm going to show you my grid home. So this is my grid home. I already copied the binaries and I already unzipped the binaries. Once you unzip the binaries, all these executable files will be placed here. And similarly, if I go on node 2, node 2 here, it will be nothing. So once I do grid infrastructure installation on node 1, automatically it will copy all the binaries on node 2, and then it will relink, and cluster will be ready. So I already, as I told already, the binaries are copied on node 1. Fine, I'll show you my Oracle home. Oracle home is nothing on node 1, and similarly nothing on node 2. So I'm going to install Oracle home after the grid infrastructure installation. So let's get started. Okay, so this is all set up, and ID grid, I'm going to use grid user for grid installation, and ID Oracle user for Oracle installation. Both the users are already set, and all the group name, UID, everything is given properly. So were set to execute, were set to install the database, or and were set to install the grid infrastructure. And also I did enabled SSH connection. So what I will do, I will just log into grid, and I will log into grid in the node 2 as well, right? So I will do SSH rac. I am at rac 3. I'm just doing the SSH to the same node. It will connect SSH without any password. I'll just log out, and I'll do SSH to the other remote node rac 4. It will connect to rac 4. You can see here rac 4. So without password, without interacting with password, enter. So it's called passwordless authentication. So I already set up a passwordless authentication. So similarly, from rac node 4, I'm just logging to the same node. It will get login without any password. I'll just exit, and I'll try to connect remote node, that is rac 3. So that also successful. So this is called passwordless authentication. So please refer my previous video how to enable this passwordless authentication, and I briefly covered in my previous session. So let's get started. So thing is, you need to go back to your grid oracle home, grid binaries, and then there's a there's a file called grid setup.sh. So you need to run that as a grid user. I'm just running that one. I'm just running that grid setup.sh. So if you have any doubts or any problem on setting up of GUI mode and X display, please refer my YouTube channel. I explained in detail how to set up this initial configuration and all the pre-check steps for getting this display and all. So you can refer that anytime for more understanding. So here it has given option: configure Oracle grid infrastructure for new cluster, configure grid infrastructure for standalone server. So it is going to be new. It is going to be standalone, means if you are installing grid infrastructure for one node, it is going to be standalone. So I am installing as a new cluster with multiple nodes. I'm selecting with the node 1. So option 1. So third option is for upgrading your existing grid infrastructure. So I don't have any existing grid infrastructure right now, so I'm going with option 1. So new setup. Okay, so here it has given 4 option here, right? So configure Oracle standalone server, configure domain service cluster, configure member cluster. So I'm not going to cover what all these, but each has a unique feature. So I'll just go ahead with Oracle standalone cluster because that is the management. So I'll just briefly cover what is that standalone cluster and domain service. So there's a Oracle MOS note. I will put it in the comment section about Oracle cluster domain or Oracle domain service cluster. So what is the unique feature between them? There are a lot of more features, a lot of advanced feature compared to this service, compared the standalone cluster with the domain service cluster. So I'm going with Oracle standalone right now. So in the next session or next video, I'll explain what is this domain service looks like and what's the difference compared with the standalone cluster. So right now I'll go with the Oracle standalone cluster. Okay, so you need to give your cluster name and scan name and then the scan port. So scan port is 1521. I will go with the default scan port. So my scan name is, if you have noticed, I given my scan name as a rac scan. So I'll just go with the rac scan. Okay, so cluster name you can give rac cluster. So I'll just go with the default naming rac cluster, and scan name I'll go with uh, my rac scan, and then port 1521. Configure GNS global naming service, right? So the global naming service is something, if you can give one global IP, and then that GNS is responsible for assigning all the VIPs and scan IPs and particular node IPs, that one only you have to pass one VIP and then one JNS domain. It is internally assign all those IPs, but I'm not going to use this JNS. I'll just go without checking that. Okay, so default the local node is rack node 3 rack 3, it is selected. So I'm going to add the other cluster node. Public host name you can give rac 4 dot local domain.com, and virtual host name, right? So rac vip4 dot local domain.com, right? uh, rac vip4 local domain.com, right? So both the cluster nodes are selected, and then you can verify SSH connection. I already showed you, but again I will re-verify here, and grid, and you can give the password and test. Okay, SSH performance is detected to be slow, which may impact the performance during the remote node operation, like copy software and existing privileges assurance. Okay, so this is kind of SSH between the nodes, some delay is there. So I'm okay with that because it is my VMware workstation and there's some network delay. I'm okay with that, but it did not say that there's a issue between the passwordless connection. So if you have not done SSH passwordless connection between the nodes already established, so it's fine. So if the passwordless connection is not done, so you can do here by clicking setup, right? So I'll just click next. Name rack VIP is assigned to another system on this network. Okay, so let me check what is that. Hello. Yeah. There was a name resolve.config file issue, and then there were an integrity check between the nodes. So that I figured I'll tell you what is the issue. Resolve.conf. Okay. So this name server was pointing to 8.1, and here it was wrongly it was wrongly configured between these two. That is why the nodes are not able to resolve. So I forgot to mention before the start of this grid infrastructure installation, one has to run node the pre-config command. So I'll tell you uh, the runcluvfy pre-config check, right? So this is the grid home, and inside the grid home there's a runcluvfy.sh stage pre CRS installation -n rac node. You need to mention rac node 3, rac node 4 hyphen verbose for detailed output. So once you do it, it will tell what is the issue and how to fix it. So there was a issue with the dev shm max. It was 1 GB, and then recommended was 2 GB. I made it as a 2 GB now. So if you do df-h, so dev shm, now it's 2 GB on both the nodes. It was failing, and I fixed that. Similarly, I told you, right, resolve integrity issue between node 1 and 2. So on node 1 rack node 3, it was one pointing to 128. So I made it, now I will show you, I made it to 8.1. It was wrongly pointed to 128. So I fixed that one. So with that, our issue has VIP, it was not able to find out, so it was fixed now. So I'm going to rerun that grid setup. This time it should pass, and it should proceed further. Okay, click next. Click next. and mention your scan 1521 default port. Click next. Then it should be RAC VIP3. Similarly, add the other node. Sorry, other node. Add your public host name, and then add your VIP. Click OK. Continue. Validating the node readiness now. Let's see, this time it should pass. Verifying SSH, verifying setup for installer validations, and it's already done SSH passwordless connectivity, I hope. So without fixing these errors, whatever you encounter, you should not proceed further. You should not skip any fails or warnings and proceed further until you are aware of what kind of that error message or what was that warning message, whether I can safely ignore those warnings or error message. If you are confident and you have come across those error messages in previous or past experience, you are you are not supposed to proceed further. You have to fix it and proceed further. Okay, now you can see, right? So it went fine. So we are all set now. So node integrity check was passed and it went fine, and then we proceeded further. So now you can see ETH0 is my public and ETH2 is, you can use it as a private, and then proceed further. It detected that following nodes have connectivity with cluster nodes through a selected interface, right? So details. Okay, so what I'll do, I'll just close it and I will say do not use. I will proceed further. Let's see this time. No private interfaces assigned. Okay, so what I'll do, I will start my private interface now. So I have started my private ETH2. Now I'm going to make it as a private. Let's see this time whether it will be able to resolve or I hope it will again get filled because the subnet was changed. The internet detector selected following nodes do not have connectivity with other cluster nodes through the selected interface. Okay, so here you go, guys. So I will tell you, I'll brief you what I did and what was the issue. So node 1, I started my all three interfaces: Ethernet 0, 198 public IP, Ethernet 1 private IP, and Ethernet 2 is for internet connection. So similarly, uh, similarly on node 2, Ethernet 0 public IP, the host IP, and Ethernet 1 private IP, and Ethernet 2 is for internet access. Then I enabled all three IPs, and then in the installer screen I got all three. Ethernet, earlier Ethernet 2 was down, so that is why it was showing only Ethernet 0 and Ethernet 1. Now all three are up. Ethernet 0 is for public IP, so I used it public, and Ethernet 1 is for private, for ASM or node interaction, so I made it as ASM and private, and Ethernet 2 is for my internet, so I just had I made it as a do not use. So I'm just going ahead with the next. Validating the public and private interface across the cluster nodes. Okay, yeah, now it is validating. So now it is fine, right? So we are good now. So configure ASM using a block device or configure using NFS. So I'm going with the ASM block devices, so I'm not going to use NFS, and I'll click next. And then do you want to create a separate automatic storage ASM disk group for grid infrastructure repository? No, I don't want to go ahead with a separate disk group. I'll just go ahead with the same disk group. I'll go ahead with the same disk group and click next. And then you need to give your disk path string, right? So I will show you Oracle ASM list disks, sorry, Oracle ASM list disk disks, right? So already created 12 disks, ASM1 to ASM12, ASM 1 2 3 4 5 6 are 10 GB each, ASM 7 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 are 2 GB each. I'll use it for RICO, and then I'll use it for data. Similarly, for the same disks are should be displayed on the other one, because since that is a common storage. List disks. See, same disks are listed here as well. So I will proceed with the giving. So this one will be my dev Oracle ASM, is the ASM library where all disks are mounted. So I will give that path. So I will give that discovery path here. So dev. So as I told, like dev ASM should be my disks here. Dev Oracle ASM disks should be my path here. So I will give this path here, and then it should discover all the disks. You can see, right? Oh, it's amazing. All the disks were shown here. So what I'll do, mm, data disk group, right? Normal redundancy. I'll create disk 1 2 3 4 5 6. So now you can give your failure group, or whatever you want. And if you go for high, normal, or external, I'll go with the normal redundancy 2 copies, and you can specify the failure group if you want, which failure group is for which. I'm not going to specify right now, so I'll proceed further. Okay, so it says insufficient space is available on selected disk. Space is required. Okay, so how much it says? I will just quickly 77 MB, 77 600 MB. Okay, so I don't want to go ahead with the normal redundancy. I'll make it as external, and let's see whether it will be sufficient. Okay, so with the external redundancy, because no mirror copy, so almost it was 10 GB each, so 6 disks around 60 GB, so it is fine. So I'll just go ahead with the next. So sys and sysasm, I'll use the same password. Next. So use intelligent platform management, IPMI. So if you want to use this IPMI, then you can give all this username and credentials. So if you don't want, just ignore right now and then proceed further. So I will ignore it, and then I'll click continue, and I don't want to configure it with EM cloud control, so I'll just ignore it and I'll proceed further. And you can provide your OS ASM is a DBA, and OS DBA ASM is ASM DBA, operation is ASM operation, and click next. Invalid choice OS ASM group. Installer has detected grid does not belong to the ASM upper. Okay, so what I'll do, I will change it to, so I will ignore this group now, and then I'll proceed further. ASM OS ASM group. So OS ASM. Okay, so I'll proceed, or else what I'll do, I will go ahead with the DBA. OS DBA. So I'll make it OS DBA as ASM DBA, and then ASM administrator as ASM DBA. OS DBA as okay, no, ASM DBA particularly it says ASM DBA, and then ASM administrator is a DBA backup. So I'll make it as a DBA for this one. Let's see. I'll proceed with this configuration. Since this is the new setup, so you have to decide it, and you have to pre-configure it, and you have to decide before all this before you design your infrastructure. So this is my base location, and this is my software location. I'll click continue. Performing the remote operations, fine. Checking specified, okay. So I'll make sure that yeah, same location has the full permission. So we got some error message. Let's see what is that. The specified Oracle base location is not empty on this server. The specified Oracle base location is not empty on the following node. Okay, rack 4. Let me see what is that. Okay, so RSD data. Okay, so this is fine, and I'll it says on rack node 2, right? So it has a product. I will remove this one because this is the Oracle home I was planning to install after this grid infrastructure, right? So nothing is there, so I will just remove this Oracle. This is my base, Oracle base. RM -RM product. Fine, I removed it. I will just click no and next continue. Let's see, this time it should remove that error message. Performing the remote operations means it is checking on the remote nodes. Reference base location is not empty on this. Okay. Yes, I want to continue. When page run app for inventory is the one stop. So automatically run the root script. If you can click this one, and you need to pass the password, and automatically run once the setup is done. So I don't want to give this control to the automatic script to the installer. So I have to control this, because one has to control at the end of the, you make sure your installation is successful, then only run that script, right? So don't my recommendation is don't give this automatic running automatic run this configuration script. So don't give control to the installer, you have to hold with you on this installation. So now it's doing the it will do all the system pre-checks, and then if any errors or warnings it will throw here, and then you need to fix it or you need to take a appropriate action. It's doing all the pre-checks and checking the node connectivity and cluster when ASM libraries and configuration pre-checks all the VIPs, node IPs, scan IPs, and all the required libraries, all the RPMs, and SSH connectivity, and cluster integrity of the nodes, resolve.config integrity, everything. It will make sure it will check all those pre-checks and it will give the summary. NTP time VIP subnet configuration check. Yeah, checking scan now. Yeah, since there might be some errors or warnings because it is I'm using my local VMs on VMware Workstation. Okay, so physical memory I can ignore it because I know its limitation. I do not have more memory. Okay, device check, thread check. Okay, NTP I can ignore. I am not using NTP. DNS or NIS naming service. Okay, I can ignore. I am not using this DNS naming service. Access control list ACL. Shared. Okay, shared disk. I know. Yeah, this shared disk I know because I'm using a local VMware shared disk. It has some warning. This can be ignored. So let me check. Okay, so I'm going to ignore this physical memory. I can ignore. So ASM disk. This is basically talks about shared disk between both the nodes. So I can ignore it because I know this is not the standard OS I'm using. I mean to say it was not the industry standards OS or configuration. This is my local VMware. I have done this. I have seen this warning message in my past. So I was scheduler. I can ignore right now. So NTP. I am not using NTP. DNS. I am not using DNS. So this all I can ignore, and then I can proceed further. Yes. If you want, you can save this response file and then proceed with the installation. So it will take few minutes, and then you know uh, we'll see how the progress will go up. So these are the list of activities it will do. This small window, it will show all the major milestone. It will list out here. Okay, these are the steps it is going to do it: configuring local nodes, and preparing it, and linking library, and setting it up, and copying it to the remote nodes, configuring the remote nodes. Once this is done, and then remote node preparation and setup it will do. Once this is done, set up Oracle base and execute root script. So we'll wait for a few minutes and then we'll come back and we'll see the status. Okay, on the remote, on the local node, it is almost done the configuration. You can see, right, the preparation step is done and linking libraries is done, and setting up all the configuration is done, and now it is doing a configuration of remote node. So configuration of remote node, if you see this detailed window, it will say that copying all these grid binaries to the remote node. So it will copy it. Once the copy is done, and then it will proceed with the configuration. Once the configuration is set up is done, so it will ask us to run the root scripts. With that, we'll be done with our grid configuration and grid installation and configuration. So we'll wait for a few more minutes and we'll see what is the status. Okay, here you go. So the remote node configuration is also done, and then it is asking us to run the root scripts. So first I will run it as a root user. I'll run it on node 3 and node 4, and then other script root.sh I'll run it on node 3 and node 4. So here we go. So I'm at node 3. I'm running that first script. Or inst root.sh. Yeah, it's done on node 3, and I'll do it on node 4 now. Yep, it's done on node 4, and then I'll go back. I'll do other script. I'll run it on node 3 now. User and app, grid home, and root.sh. And I will click just enter. Delinking Oracle with RAC on option. This is very important, so make sure it should be successful. Once on both the node it is ran successfully, click OK, then your configuration will be done. This is actually very important. It will start all the grid services. Make sure it should be successful. It will do a series of steps. You can see here, right? First step is you can see, I'll just highlight it, executing installation setup. Totally there are 19 steps, and then set up that TFA is successful. You can see successfully install the TFA collector, and then it will proceed with the further steps, executing installation of data environment. These are the steps: gen set GUID, save parameter file, set up OSD. There are many steps. Totally there are 19 steps. Once it will successfully all done this installation, and then it will start the high availability service. You can see, right, starting shutdown of Oracle high availability, and then shutdown of managed service is completed. Now it will start the service. It will start all the services. You can see it is starting up all the clusterware services. You can see, right, or EVMD, MDNSD, and GPNPD, SSD monitor, GIPCD, and then CSSD diskmon. Yep, it is. You can see this successful message, right? Succeeded. So the process are getting started. It is going smooth now. We'll wait for a few more minutes. Once all the services get started, we'll proceed with the node 2. You can see here, right, the disk group created successfully, the default data disk group what we selected, and then you can see this one, right, voting disk. Already voting disk has been created, this data disk group. Look at it, one voting disk, and then along with that CRF, storage, and other services also got started. Let's see how it proceeds further. Okay, here you go. So after that one voting disk, it was shut down all Oracle availability services, and then it restarted all the services, and then at the step number 17, start cluster. It will clean starting of entire cluster. You can see all the services are started here. right? So it says successfully started Oracle clusterware stack, and then it is proceeded with the step number 18, config node. Wow, so the node configuration is done, the listener started, and ASM started, and then it is doing the post configuration. So that's really great. First, for the first attempt, uh, with all those hurdles and errors and warnings, and fixing them all, and finally we are at final step with the success message. Let's give up some more minutes. We'll proceed with the other node. Yep, here you go. So the final message, right? Configuration of Oracle grid infrastructure for a cluster succeeded. So it means the node 1 went fine. So same root script will run it on the other node. I'm at node 2, that is rack 4. Just click enter. Yeah, it will take the same time, and then almost 8 to 10 minutes. Then we'll come back again, each and every step. Thank you. On node 2 also it is doing the same thing. Out of 19 steps, 8 got completed now successfully. You can see, starting with the step number 1, setup TFA successfully installed, and then validating the node environment, check for the first node got successful, and then set GUID, set parameter file, and OCR config. Same process it is doing, whatever it has done on the node 1, and then at the end it will join this node to the cluster. Okay, so here you go guys. So second node also, configuration of Oracle grid infrastructure for a cluster is succeeded. So I'll just go back from the beginning, from the step number 1. TFA has installed, the server has validated, check first node is done, generate set GUID, save parameter file, set up OSD, check CRS config, set up local GPNP, config OLR, config chmos, create OHSD, config OHSD, and then adding clusterware entries to this Oracle OHSD config, and then install AFD and install ACFS. And once that is done, it will shut it down all clusterware high availability Oracle high availability service, and then it will start Oracle high availability service. And then step number 15, install KA and init config. Once that is done, it will shut down again clusterware services, and then it will start all the clusterware services on the line number 17, step number 17, right? So you can see all these services: GPNPD rack, CRSD monitor, CSSD diskmon, cluster interconnect, everything is all services started, and including listener scan. Once that is started, it will go to line number 18, executing installation step, and config node, and then post configuration. So that concludes cluster installation on node 1 and 2, and then we'll go back to installation screen, and then we'll click OK. Okay, so here we are. So we have done with all the script. We'll click OK, close this one, and click OK. So execution of root script done, configuration of Oracle grid infrastructure for cluster, it is in progress now. Update inventory, Oracle Netka. It will take few more minutes, and we'll see the status. And at the meantime, if you see, SM1 is started here, and similarly on node 2, node 2 SM2 started, and then PSF grep d.bin, all the cluster services, can see, right? GP, GIP, CD, CSSD monitor, CSSD agent, OCSSD, CTSSD. So all these good services including listener, scan, everything started here. Similarly on node 2, if I check, yeah, all the services are started. There are some services owned by root and some services are owned by grid. So I will cover all these processes and architecture in the next class. So clusterware setup and ASM is done, and now it is doing all this inventory update and listener, Oracle Net configuration listeners and ASM configuration assistant, and then creating a container database for grid infrastructure repository, that is management database, and then you know other two steps: Oracle clusterware verification and GIMR configuration assistant. So it will take few more minutes. Inventory got updated and now it is starting Oracle network configuration assistant. So it has completed Oracle network configuration assistant. Now started with Oracle storage management, automatic storage management configuration assistant. ASM CMD, I can say, right? Configuration management command prompt, ASM command prompt. So ASM CMD is completed, ASM automatic storage management configuration assistant, and now it is starting with the container database for Oracle grid infrastructure management repository. So the meantime we can check the processes from cluster nodes. So as a root user or as a grid user, you can go inside, you can get your grid home, right? Bin crsinst stat resource -t -init. It will list out all the processes of that cluster, of this clusterware. You can see, right? ASM clusterware interconnect, CRF, CRSD, CSSD, CSSD monitor, CTSSD, diskmon, drivers, EVMD, GIPCD, GPNPD, MD, NSD, and storage. So similarly, you can run this command and it will tell which are processes online, which processes are offline, and which processes are like what is the state, observer mode or stable. And similarly, the command I can run it on the node 2, cluster node 2, same output. And this is only list. If you pass this init, it will list only the processes. If you remove this init, it will list out all the clusterware services, processes, databases, listeners, everything. So just run it. So many things, right? So it started here. You can see this command: ASM listener, disk group, and listener, network, ONS, proxy, VMD, EDVM, scan listener, and management listener, ASM, and management DB, and then all the VIPs. I can see here ASM 3 has came. Yes, we'll see how to remove it and then we'll troubleshoot why it came here. So the management database is created. So the instance is started, but the database creation is still in progress. You can see the step, right? Creating container database for grid infrastructure management repository, that is MGMT database, management database. Creating a storage, creating and starting the Oracle instance is in progress. So that is MGMT management database. So let it get complete and we'll see further. Okay, so those are the two final steps. Management database got created, and then cluster verify final post steps are done. So I close the window, and I'll just verify. What I'll just show you once again on the cluster resource. Right, here you go. So all the resources are online, and similarly on the other node also, all the resources are online, and all the services are also online. This issue I will check it later sometime. And yeah, here also all the services are online. So with that, cluster where grid infrastructure installation was successful. So I'll proceed with the database installation in the next session. Thank you guys. Stay tuned for further updates.